to Lifting Leaders Podcast, where we're unleashing leader possibilities to make a better world. I'm Tricia Ryan, and together with Crystal Roberts, we're diving deeper into some of the complexities of the world's most critical challenges and exploring innovative ways of navigating through them.
Through interviews with experts and leaders just like you, we are exploring what it takes to thrive as a leader today and examining new ways of thinking about how to creatively lead into a more equitable, socially responsible, and sustainable future. And the future starts now. Hi, Tricia. How are you?
I'm doing great, Crystal. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be doing a Gems on that really interesting podcast episode that we did with our special guest, Meghan Patino.
I thought I loved her energy. I really did. And I thought the conversation was wonderful. And she's fascinating. What a great story.
I know. It's so inspiring. I'm like, I want to go on my own adventure.
I know. I was looking it up afterwards. You know, after our day of doing episodes that evening, I sat down at the computer and I just started working on where could I go? What kind of adventures are out there that someone who doesn't really know the areas, you know, could go and have an exploration, have a moment, but not kill myself in the process.
Right. Yeah. A friendly.
Yeah. I'm young at that, I guess. You know, I may be
friendly
seasoned,
travels.
but
yeah, casual travels. Yeah, and so in our gems here, we wanted to, just as we always do, or oftentimes do, we pulled up an article that we felt like we could drill down into one little tiny specific area that she talked about, because there was so much richness. If you haven't listened to the episode, we encourage you to go back and listen to it. But this, I think, is going to be kind of fun. This will be a fun gems to dive into travel. And what does it help us learn as far as leadership?
And if you need a reason to travel, if you need that to feel that you can now plan that trip, okay, really try and glean some of these gems from, you know, the reasons why you want to do this, because it's good for you, right?
That's right. Yeah. But before we dive into that, I think we should reorient people to the fact that we're in the middle of a special series.
Yes, we are. I love this series. We just started it, basically, and Meghan was our first person, right?
Yeah.
We're in a special series that has to do with coaches.
Coaches, yeah, and making a better world.
Yes, ma'am. And we're going to be we're targeting all sorts of coaches, but we have a few really cool niches to explore. And ones that I hadn't really thought much about before. So I'm excited to bring them. I think people will learn something new, perhaps. And for those people who have not sought coaching for whatever reason, you may find that you now have something new to look into. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. It's amazing the diversity of work that these coaches are doing. So,
It's exciting.
It is. So today, the article is, and thanks for pulling this, Tricia, for finding this article. It comes from Psychology Today, and it's called How Travel Spurs Personal Growth. New research on peak experiences offers fresh insights. And I love the very first quote that they have, which is, to travel, hopefully, is a better thing than to arrive. And I love that, because I always have believed that it's all about the journey. Of course, the destination is great if you actually get there, but we can learn so many things. And that's really what Meghan was talking about, is that her self-discovery and moving through, as she called it, metabolizing fear, to even plan the trip as well as what was actually on that adventure.
I was not at all on any kind of adventure like that as a child, but my dad was in the service, and so we moved every year. And we never moved to just the next town. We always had to move across the country. Every single time it was a complete trip across the country, but my father was committed to never let us go on the same road twice. We always took very interesting trips, right? And it was the journey. We knew where we were going. We were probably going to be on base or something, and that's totally exciting. But beyond being totally exciting, it was, you know, all those places along the way in the history that we learned in the journey. So it was interesting. So when she was talking, I was thinking that is something I never ventured out of our own country to do, but how exciting to do something so different, so unknown, so untested.
Yeah. So this article talks about a survey that a little bit of research here. It's small study of a little over 200 people between the ages of 18 and 39. So it's definitely a specific group of people they researched. But 82% reported that traveling had helped them in problem solving or decision making. And I thought that was really interesting.
It's interesting, but doesn't that just make a lot of sense when you think about it? It's like, yes, you're going to have to make decisions. You don't know exactly what's going to happen while you're on the road.
Yeah.
And problem solving is definitely going to be in order. We heard Meghan talk about that.
The botflies.
Yep. I'll never forget it. I'm never going to go in the water ever again.
Yeah.
It's not in there.
Not in the Amazon anyway. Yeah. No, but they did, and they survived. And that was what she learned, right? Was that you could actually, and she taught her children too, that you can have bad things happen. And if you stay calm and you don't let the fear overtake you, then you can have a response to it that allows you to just keep going and still have a great trip.
It's like learning building strength in resilience and building strength in being able to your coping skills for things that are unknown.
Yeah.
And decision making and problem solving are a big part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing that they bring up in this article, which I thought was really interesting, was there actually isn't a lot of research that has been done around travel and the impact on our lives. But there was another study done in the mid-70s by Peter Adler that argued that the culture shock experience by exchange students, international volunteers, military, diplomatic personnel, and others engaged in cross-cultural endeavors needn't be entirely negative. So sometimes we do think of this culture shock as it being a real negative thing. And it can actually kind of jolt us a little bit out of, I think of it when we talk about like a fish swimming in water, we don't even know what's going on around us. We just think that's just the way it is. And with culture shock, it's like, oh, look, people do things differently. There are different ways to actually live your life, different values, different foods, all of those things.
When I think about leaders in business, often it's that running on autopilot. They don't look for those things.
Yeah.
They just keep walking forward. And that in itself can create the gap between employees and their leaders often because the leaders don't see what their employees are bringing and what they're trying to tell them and show them. And that's an unfortunate gap because it's hard to gain back, especially if trust is lost in that process. So I think that, with travel, when you are in a shock, when you are shocked into a new reality or looking at things differently and saying, wow, I don't live this life at all, but isn't this interesting? And maybe I appreciate myself a little bit more or my life a little bit more because of what I'm seeing in front of me. Same thing goes for leaders and their employees.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing to bring up too, is how does it show up in the workplace? And I think of some of the folks that are coming new into our workplaces and all of the sort of culture shock for them. And it can just be that it's somebody that's coming from Amazon and now they're working for a government agency or the other way around, right? So very, very different work environments. And that can be, in a sense, a culture shock as well. It's
not just in a sense, it is a culture shock for people, especially going from something like what you were saying, from private industry to public. That's a whole different world. And I've done that. And you were in the public sector for your whole career pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And so, I had never expected to have that kind of culture shock in business because I was going in to practice what I know.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how I was going to have to twist it because of how it is accepted in a different setting. So that's pretty interesting. And so I love that you brought up late breaking, entrance into the corporate and business world because they bring such an amazing energy and so many talents that we haven't seen in people that are entry level in probably ever. But they have so many gifts just by virtue of the fact they've lived their whole lives in a technical world and all sorts of things. But that's helping us in so many ways. But to come in with that expectation that everything's going to be like that, and then you find out that all the systems are like 20 years older than you are, or something. And then it's like, how am I going to make this work? Right.
Yeah.
And trying to get along with people who are, like 3 seconds away from retirement. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. I was thinking of a very tactical thing. Some of these companies, especially the larger companies now, have either mandated or are thinking about it, having everybody come back into the workplace full-time, reporting on site. And we know that there's this younger generation, some of them have never had to do this. Mm-hmm. So this will be a big culture shock for them as well.
Yeah, I think it will change these businesses a bit.
Yeah.
Because their entrance into the workforce has already changed businesses.
Yeah.
But when they get the pushback from people who really actually almost love working outside of the office because they've never done anything else.
Yeah.
To bring them into a work setting and have them interact with the people that they've only seen on a flat screen is pretty interesting. I think it'll be a whole different dynamic and team building and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Lots of job security for you, I was thinking.
Yeah, I've got a lot of work ahead of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So culture shock, when we're talking about that, is various beliefs, values, and lifestyles.
So they came up with, in this article, 7 distinct payoffs that are associated with growth, basically, through travel.
Yeah.
Right? And the first one, which you have probably more information on the guts of it, I'll say, is enables one to become decluttered, or a state of being decluttered and thinking a little more clearly, right?
Yeah.
Better thinking.
I love that, actually. And I think about, I was actually watching a Rick Steves informational video as we are getting prepared for our own trip, hopefully in the spring, about, and I've also experienced this in my own travels, where you would basically just have a backpack. That's it. Mm-hmm. And the freedom of that is incredible. Just, it is a little scary to be thinking, oh, I'm traveling around the world with a backpack, but it also is very freeing. It's just like leaving behind all the stuff, and you can just focus and be present on what's going on around you. I love that.
I think I do too, and I never really thought of doing something like that. Yeah. I mean, I've gone on backpacking trips with the intention of getting out into the wild, right?
Yeah.
But to do that in a world where you're around hotels and restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and you've got your world on your back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a great sense of freedom.
I bet.
Yeah. And the second one was greater calmness and peace of mind. And
quiet, right? You quiet your mind when you're not sitting there listening to all the noise of your work, the noise of your family, the noise of the world around you.
Yeah.
It
comes from that, again, kind of that singular focus. It's like all you really have to worry about is maybe where you're sleeping that night, or what's the next meal that you're going to have. And that creates a lot of clarity. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you do with that space, in your head?
Yeah.
Is you're just drinking in your experience, right? How cool is that?
Yeah.
We drink in a lot in our daily lives, and it can get overwhelming because it's very focused, on lots of little things that have to do with either our home or our business or whatever our endeavor is, right? And you can only drink in so much information.
Yeah.
So with a backpack on your back, right, without a lot of clutter, and being someplace that is unknown to you, it's to your advantage to just drink in what you're seeing, and not so much think through all the craziness that's going on in the world, right?
Yeah, that's right.
The next one was, and we love this one, increased hope and optimism. And I love that they called that out. They had a quote that said, "To always be grateful for what I have," is what one of their participants came up with. I helped regain my confidence. It helped regain my confidence when I was on the brink of giving up my job hunting due to constant rejection. And they went on a trip, right?
Yeah.
And they had a different perspective. And I think that's what it is. It's a shift in your thinking, right? You're able to you have more clarity. You're able to see things that you might not see when everything's surrounding you and you're worried.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Helps you again kind of come back to center.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth, a broader perspective on human life and culture. Yeah, it really helps us to see how we are connected. We are one with the rest of the world. Yeah, love that.
We are all aliens on the same planet, right?
Yep.
There you go. Next one is heightened self-discovery through solitary time. And that's sort of that quiet space I was talking about. But wow, that's something that when I'm thinking about traveling on my own, that's what I think about is I want to take a book or I want to take a sketch pad and one pencil.
Yeah.
But I just want to have that solitary time because that's when I process a lot of the junk that's going on in my world.
Yeah.
And it's when I let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I was fortunate to be able to go to Paris with my daughter Madison several years ago. And it was just prior to her program that she was doing there on sketching. And so she was actually teaching me a little bit about how to sketch. And I couldn't believe how meditative that really was. And the thing that really surprised me was how you have to pay attention to the detail. And so, really focusing on what that form is that you're trying to sketch. And I was terrible at it, but it was, but it was really fun. It was fun to try. Mm-hmm. And as long as I could let go of that perfectionism and just enjoy the process, it brought my world down to this very narrow place of one spot that I was looking at, like a sculpture or a house or whatever. And so that really was meditative and centering for me as well. Yeah.
So you had some self-discovery there.
I did.
Right? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really fun. So 6, enhanced gratitude and appreciation. And I can definitely relate to that, just even in that sketching, really appreciating every curve and every color and gratitude for all of that was around me. Yeah,
I think about dreaming of traveling to other places. And I think that's one thing that in my travels in my past I have had is total gratitude. When I think about, the fact that I'm even in that space makes me grateful. And not only that, but the people I interact with, me, I want to talk to everybody. So the fact that they'll talk to me and I learn something and I grow from that, I have a ton of gratitude about that. I always feel like I leave every situation like that richer.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful because I hope that and hopeful that other people feel that way too.
Yeah.
So to me, that's another one of those things that you were talking about. This is our connection this is where we have alignment and we're in sync with other people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And appreciation, I would say, for, like you had said earlier, appreciation for the history of where you're at and the people and the culture.
Mm-hmm. And that last one is self-empowerment. I find that really interesting. I think that we may not always pay attention to that so much. There are people who just naturally, act that way.
Yeah.
But for a lot of us, feeling that, especially if we work for someone else, we may not always feel as empowered, or we may not always feel that I've got a handle on this. I can handle this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna enjoy this trip. I plan to get something out of it, and here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that is part of that, very much.
Yeah, I think we heard Meghan talk a lot about that too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. This greater courage, self-confidence, and autonomy. When you can figure out where you're at in the country and where you're going next and, read the train schedule and get on the train and get off and find your hotel and all of that kind of stuff, that definitely builds confidence and courage.
It has to. I mean, when you go downtown where you live, you know what's down there, right?
Yeah.
You know what to expect. If you get on a train here and we want to get off in Seattle, we pretty much know the landscape between, right?
Yeah.
And we also know once we get there, we're not going to be totally lost. But when you're going someplace you've never been and you don't speak the language maybe, and you get on a train and you're trying to figure out, do I have the right number of euros or whatever, or pesos or something, then you're already kind of scratching the surface there. But get off in a place that you've never been and try and figure out, without a road map, where to walk to get to your hotel or a restaurant, or how to ask for directions. Those things become big lessons in growth, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good article. I mean, it wasn't a really long article. It does have some really short snippets to kind of explain what these 7 steps are, basically. And I thought it was kind of appropriate. I loved what we learned from Meghan, and I am going to go back and listen to the recording again. And for those of you who didn't listen to it, please go to our website and check it out, and you'll hear our website address in the close. But, check us out, and you'll find that there are some really great gems in there, not only from what we talk about, but definitely from these amazing speakers. And Meghan was just the perfect beginning to our Coaches series.
Yeah, absolutely. And also encourage, and you kind of said this early on today, the adventure doesn't have to be international travel. Mm-hmm. The adventure can be in your own neighborhood. That's and right. I absolutely love that your dad never wanted to go down the same road twice. Mm-hmm. And I think we can do that for ourselves. Yes. Get out of our routine, do something a little bit different. Go down a road that you've never been on, and maybe you don't even know where it's going.
And you will be amazed what you learn, how you grow, and how much better you're going to feel.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So let's keep that conversation going. If you have questions or comments about the show, you can find us on all our social media channels at @lifting_leaders. We have so many exceptional podcast episodes coming up with more fantastic guests, so be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. If you know someone who would find this episode inspiring or informative, share it with them, text them, email them, or take a screenshot and share it on your Instagram and tag us at @lifting_leaders. If you'd like to know more about us, our guests, or the show, please go to our website at liftingleaderspodcast.com. You'll find our show notes there as well. If you're looking for help in developing your leaders or would like a growth opportunity yourself through leader coaching, please contact us through our website at www.liftingleaderspodcast.com. Thank you to Ari Chance Roberts for his technical support of our show. Finally, please take 30 seconds and follow us. It helps you because you never miss an episode, and it helps us because you never miss an episode. To follow us, go to the Lifting Leaders Podcast Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner and click on follow. While you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star rating and review and share the episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful. Writing a review does really help us because it's part of that algorithm. The more reviews that we have, the more people the podcast gets exposed to.
And not only that, I really want to know what people think.
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
We want to make sure that we're on track with you.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Let us know. Thank you, Trisha, for another great episode.
Thank you, Crystal. I always have fun with you.
Many thanks to you, our listeners. We appreciate you. Find ways every day to lift each other up. Have a fantastic week.
Take care.